Hello, hello. Today I'll be answering some follower submitted questions about music and practicing and that kind of thing. Let's get to it. Is keeping time by tapping foot / nodding head no matter what tempo / genre essential? One of the first things I was called out on in music school was tapping my foot while performing. And it wasn't because foot tapping is inherently a bad thing, it's because when you're performing on classical guitar in a big room with a linoleum floor or on a stage with a wooden floor in a big hall, tapping your shoe is going to be pretty distracting. Classical guitar is a very delicate, quiet instrument to begin with, and rubber on floor ruins the experience for the listener. I was told to tap my big toe inside my shoe instead, but my answer to your question sort of depends on what it is you're doing. Are you practicing or are you performing? Because those are two different things. In practice, I would advise keeping time mainly with a metronome rather than your own body. The whole point of the metronome is to keep you honest about your timing. Now, because rhythm is something you ultimately have to internalize and feel, this may lead you to tap your foot or bob your head or something. Feeling it should be tied to some kind of explicit understanding of what it is you're supposed to be feeling. You have to have some measure of what is correct so that you can properly gauge when your timing or articulation is off. This is why clapping rhythms along with a metronome is so important. You're building the grid in your mind, and you're training your own physical timekeeping method to be more precise. When you're performing, tap your foot, bob your head. Performing is just as much a visual experience for the audience as it is an auditory one. So you can let the music move you a little, as long as it doesn't get in the way of your execution or distract from the sounds you're making. When I'm performing, I'm nodding my head like crazy. When I'm practicing, I don't bob my head or tap my foot so much as I click my tongue off the roof of my mouth. I almost do like this faux beatboxing thing very quietly to myself. I've done it for a long time as a way of subdividing, and I generally try to keep it inaudible, but more recently, after discovering the Armenian pianist Tigran Hamasyan, I've become less concerned about keeping it quiet. His music is very rhythmically complex, and you can always hear him scatting these complicated rhythms half to himself, but they also subtly become part of the performance. I actually find it to be a little compelling, so I'm a little less afraid of it being a distraction for the listener. It may not be to everyone's taste. The only other thing I would add is don't just tap your foot or bob your head when you're practicing or performing. That gives you the beat. You need to be subdividing the beat. If this is the beat, you need to be doing this in your head. And you need to know where every attack falls on that grid. Why hasn't Clowncore won a Grammy? If Clowncore ever wins a Grammy, I don't think anyone will need to ever bother writing music again. That will have been the pinnacle of musical achievement. Really though, Clowncore is pretty incredible. If you've never heard of them, look them up. I'll try not to spoil too much, but it's basically a musical joke that manages to be super awesome in its own right. The band is made up of two unnamed guys who don't show their faces, but it's obvious who they are. It's Lewis Cole and Sam Gendel. Gendel? Lewis Cole is a multi-instrumentalist, mainly a drummer, and one of the musical masterminds behind the band Knower. Sam Gendel is a saxophonist and composer himself, who usually plays in Knower's live band. So the two of these guys are known to collaborate already. The thing about Lewis Cole is his drumming is unmistakable. He has a very distinct voice on his instrument, which is something we should all strive for, but it gives away his identity as the drummer in Clowncore. Clowncore's music is genius, though. It's intentionally ridiculous, terrifying, comical, and well composed, all at the same time. Check them out if you haven't. How do you practice making guitar solos off the top of your head? Also, do you have any ways to break out of improvisation ruts? I'm going to answer both of these at once. There's this really great quote from the composer Igor Stravinsky. The more constraints one imposes, the more one frees oneself. And the arbitrariness of the constraint serves only to obtain precision of execution. Stravinsky would often give himself creative constraints when composing. One famous example of this is his set of piano pieces titled The Five Fingers, in which the melody in each piece can be played in a fixed right-hand position using one finger per note. That's obviously a silly and arbitrary limitation, but it clearly led him to ask the question, what can I do with just 5 notes? A compelling improvisation, in my opinion, tells a story. It has a clear dramatic flow. While melting faces with a constant flurry of fast notes is impressive on a technical level, it's not very moving, and I think most would agree with me. The best improvisers know how to exercise restraint and build to a climax. So I'll do things like see how much I can say with just 4 notes. I might limit myself to a certain scale, which is not really unusual. Most people do that anyway. I might say I'm only going to play chord tones, or I'm only going to play non-chord tones. Maybe I'll give myself a sequence of things I'll do. 4 notes for 4 bars. Expand to a wider range for the next 4 bars. Start hitting some chromatic notes in the next 4 bars and resolve them into chord tones. Get up to the high notes for the last 4. Bring it home. The thing about improvisation is it's a blank slate. So for me, as someone who spent 6 years painstakingly perfecting my interpretations of composed music, I have to switch a ton of things off in my brain. As many people do, I sometimes struggle to let go. The fact that you have almost complete freedom when improvising is sort of scary. Where do you start? This is where you have to give yourself limitations. Limiting yourself to a scale is a start, but that's not enough. If you only do that, most of the time you'll just sound like you know what key you're in, and you won't really be saying anything interesting. You have to go further. Practice giving yourself ridiculous constraints, things you would never do in a performance. Because as Stravinsky said, by doing so, one frees oneself. So I would start there. What do you do when you don't feel like practicing? Practice techniques during burnout. I sell all my gear and I join an MLM. So first of all, you can't rely on motivation to practice. You just can't. It's like working out. No one likes working out. We just find a form of exercise we like, or at least tolerate, and discipline ourselves to do that regularly. It's the same thing with practicing an instrument. You have to discipline yourself to practice, even when you don't particularly want to. But there's not really a point to doing that unless there's a goal you're working towards. If you don't have any goals, then you're just twiddling your fingers around. Or you're just playing for your own enjoyment, which is a good and healthy thing to do, but it's not a replacement for seriously practicing for improvement. Personally, I have better practice discipline when I have a deadline. Nothing gets the gears turning like a deadline. Like if I have a show in a month playing all music I've never played before, you can bet I'll be spending most of my practice time on that music, and I'll probably be practicing more than I usually do. I'm going to be playing guitar for a production of Footloose in a couple months, so I want to be on my game when rehearsals start. I don't want the band to get hung up on mistakes I'm making. When I don't have anything I need to be preparing for, my practice gets channeled into writing music, usually. A finished song or piece of music is a tangible goal for me. And the fact that there's a goal makes me want to do the work to reach that goal. And if I don't work on it just because I don't feel like it, I'm not going to get there. I know everyone operates a little differently, but for general advice, I would say think about discipline, not motivation. That's all I've got. I think I'll be doing more of these Q&A videos in the future. What I've been doing is collecting questions through my story, so if you want to submit a question for one of these videos, that's where you can do it. Just keep an eye out for a post where I call for questions. I do have some openings for private Zoom lessons right now. If that's of interest to you, feel free to reach out to me. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching either way, and I'll see you in the next one.